Hello and welcome to Horseplayer Happy Hour. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatow, back with you from the little house on the east side. I had planned on doing today's show from the roof at Saratoga, but there's some very dark clouds in the area that scared me off. Didn't want to get blown off the roof or anything like that. We're going to start off running here. We've got a race at Saratoga coming right up. This is race number 6. We're still on the turf, as you can see. Hoping this rain skirts us, but it's not looking great at the moment. We've got a 5.5 furlong allowance race where this entry seems to be taking a whole lot of money from what I'm seeing here. That's the 2 entry, not the 1 entry. That's what confused me. If you heard the hesitancy in my voice as I was saying that, looks like some rain might be coming down now around there. If I were betting this race individually, I think the 2 entry is just it's bet down enough. What about Tyler Gaffleone on Sousa Summer, the 5 runner, as an alternative? Still not a wonderful price there at 3-1. It really seems like a race where the market has sussed out the key contenders. Hopefully, some of you playing in this contest have more clever ideas. Hit me up in the comments with your selections for this race or along the way today, or any of the stuff we're going to be talking about. We'll be looking ahead to Breeders' Cup Win, and you're in action. We're going to have Drew Coatney with us. We're going to have Greg Kingma with us, last year's tour champion, and supposedly a little Michelle Yu cameo towards the end. It's going to be great. Drew, Michelle, Greg, a cast of thousands, and all of you in the comments. You know, that's one of the real fun things about these shows, is that ability to go back and forth with you, the audience. So give us a pick, give us a shout out, give us a thought about what's happening this weekend. And we can hear Frank Miramati there. That might be because I didn't mute my other window. No, that's coming through from the audio from producer Craig's side. And with that, we're going to throw it to our man Frank Miramati. I was looking forward to maybe visiting him on the roof today, but it'll have to wait. You can see the rain on the lens of the camera there at the spa. Hopefully, this is going to hold off for us, especially for some of my opinions a little bit later on. Maybe more along the lines of a drizzle than a full-on rain shower. All right, now we're going to send it to the man, the myth, the legend, my friend, Frank Miramati.
And Chuck Willis will be the last one. They're in the gate. And they're off. Very even start. Super Success. White blinkers on the outside is flashing sharp early speed. On the inside, Mamba on 3 comes to battle, and Into the Sunrise is quicker than both of them. Up to take command. Artemis City Limits gets a good spot. He's now racing in 3rd. They're followed by Fluid Situation, who's on the inside. Zenbei in between rivals, up to 5th, 5 lengths off the lead. So Sua's Summer with the Lime Cap is next, racing about 1.5 lengths in front of Fluid Situation, who's lost a couple of spots rounding the far turn. It's another 2 back to Noble Emotion. Fauci is next along the inside with plenty of work to do. Oxymore, they're at the top of the stretch, and Into the Sunrise leads by 1.5 lengths. Zenbei having some traffic issues, diving down toward the inside. On the extreme outside, Fauci is coming with a menacing bid, as is Sosua Summer, who got the jump. Sosua Summer, Fauci on the outside. Sosua Summer or Fauci. Sosua Summer, Sosua Summer. 2 brilliant rides from Tyler Gaffleone, giving him a double. Second goes to Fauci.
Tyler's been riding well, and that was a very nice one for us. We'll take it. Just 3-1. Not going to be changing your life there or anything. Fauci makes that menacing move on the outside, but called so perfectly in commentary by Frank Miramati. So Sosua Summer had just gotten the jump, and with that jump, he did the business. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our pre-tape. Then when we come back, we're going to catch up on a couple of leaderboards. We'll bring in Drew Coatney, and all will be good. But I do want to bring in a man to help me set the scene for what it is we do on these Horseplayer Happy Hour programs. Up next, we have Greg Kingma.
Next up on the show, we have a returning guest. He was part of our tour last year. He actually won our tour last year, and he has another story that I want him to tell about his adventures on Horseplayer Happy Hour last week. You see, I am here poolside Not exactly a pool day, but we're making the best of it. I bring in now a man who looks like he's in a tropical paradise wherever he's coming to us from. He's Greg Kingma. Greg, how are things?
Oh, fantastic, Pete. Thanks for having me on today.
What's going on with all that lovely greenery behind you? Where are you?
So I'm up in my Seattle home. I split between here and Las Vegas, and it's a beautiful day up here. Those are pine trees behind me. So not too tropical, but it is a beautiful day up here.
Verdant. I guess I should have gone with verdant rather than tropical as my descriptor there. I'll edit myself in that regard. So, you've had a great experience. You've been with us since the beginning of this Horseplayer Happy Hour tour. What attracted you to it in the first place, and how's your experience been?
Well, it's obviously a lot of fun. And the fact that the money goes to the aftercare of horses is fantastic. And, I've had a couple successes at it. So that always helps.
What were your adventures like in the BCBC last year?
The BCBC was, like every tournament, you hope you line up on the right weekend. And, I just never really got it going where I had enough money at the end to make a difference. So it was a little frustrating, but we've all been there. In the past, I've been pretty close. But hey, one of these years, right? That's all it takes.
We're going to get a Breeders' Cup betting story from you a little bit later in this appearance. One of the things we're doing this year on Horseplayer Happy Hour is celebrating horseplayer achievements throughout the 40 years of the Breeders' Cup. But I thought you were the perfect person to help me set the sort of stage for what we do here in Horseplayer Happy Hour, because you've enjoyed success in so many different ways. We always say there's 3 different ways one can win the BCBC entry via Horseplayer Happy Hour. One being winning the entire tour, interconnected series, having the best scores throughout the entirety of the tour. Another is to qualify for our playoffs. You get in our playoffs and you have an opportunity to compete in an 80-person tournament at the end. The field winnows over the course of 4 weeks from 80 down to 1. That's another way to do it. And then there's what we call the traditional route, and that's what you're here to talk about today. Give us that scoop, Greg.
Well, I was pretty fortunate last weekend, and for those people that are involved in this, there's 2 types of tournaments. There's pick and pray and there's live, and there's various pros and cons of both. And if you play in tournaments long enough, you're going to benefit from each type of tournament. I mean, we've all been in a live tournament where we've been doing great, and we are changing our picks and we're leading, and then some bomb comes in at the end, and you don't have it covered and you lose. And a lot of people don't like the live money because of that. I mean, but it's also game theory. It's a little more intense during the day because you're having to make this, as the day goes by, you have to make decisions, right? I was fortunate to be on the lucky end of the live tournament last week. So in the Horseplayer Happy Hour, I believe I was the last person to earn an entry last week. I think I was 10th. So got an entry into the Saturday tournament. It was live. I usually, when I plays live, and this is what I did, I pick all my horses, I put them in. I don't want to change anything. I just want to let it ride out and kind of see where I'm at. I did a summary here, and I didn't win anything the first 3 races. I had a place horse in the 4th race, so I had $6. I didn't change my picks, even though I was pretty far behind. I hit the winner in the 6th and the 7th, but they paid $5.60 and $5.40. So, didn't really get me too close, but it got me at least within that $60 range, right, where you could possibly win. In the 9th race, I still hadn't changed anything. I hit a $21 winner. So that got me closer. There's 12 races. I got down to the last race. I was like about $50 still behind. I think I was in 12th. I was in 12th place. And I really only had, by math, I only had 3 horses I could play. I went with an angle that sometimes can jump up and win. And, a horse named Astronomer happened to jump up at Del Mar and win. And it was not quite a cap horse, but it was 42 and 18.
What was the angle, Greg? Let me interrupt you for that one. What was it about astronomy? Like Frank Scatoni picked on the In the Money Plus show as one of his long shots to consider in there. What was the angle that you used to find astronomy?
If you play long enough, your list of angles gets to be like, hundreds, right? Like that could possibly come. And this was a very far-reaching angle. But if I remember right, lightly raced horse, had won previously at 30-1. So at one point, a couple races back last year, it obviously ran way better than what anybody thought it would. Obviously, if it's done at once, and I think it was lightly raced, it might have only had a couple outs this year. And, once it's jumped up once, it could do it again, right?
I like that.
And we're talking, and there's a reason it's 20-1, right? I mean, I probably wouldn't have had it. Well, I know I wouldn't have had it if I was near the lead. I would have, because the horse I really liked got second, and that's the one I had, and it led the whole way, and it was like 6 or 7-1. And if I was $15-20 back, I would have kept that one. But you have to give yourself a chance, and I got lucky. And like I told a friend of mine this week, I feel really bad, for having to win that way, because I've been on the other side, right? And it's no fun. It's no fun. And so, it's lucky, but you just have to stay in the game. I guess my only advice, and, for myself and for anybody else is, you don't have to panic too early. I mean, I was down big, but if I wouldn't have hit my 560 winner, my 540 winner, I wouldn't have been close. And I didn't change until I got down to the last. In fact, the first pick I changed was my 11th, was the 11th race. And I didn't hit that one. Yeah, and I didn't hit that one, but then I lucked out and hit the last one. So, yeah, I'm off to the BCBC. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's great stuff. What is your story from Breeders' Cup history? Now, some of these have been great triumphs. We had GD Hieronymus on last week talking about the $3 million pick six score. We also are interested in the near misses and the bad beats. Which category are you in? Or actually, don't even tell us. Just tell us the story.
Yeah. Well, it's not just to tell everybody, it's not a great hey, I placed really high in the BCBC. However, in 2019, and I think that might have been the second year I ever played in it, I had done pretty well. I'd hit some pretty good prices. I think I had about 8,000 or 9,000. I think going into the last race, 8,000 or 9,000 left. And I picked the exacta box that would have got me into the top probably 4 if it would have won. And I had Fino Rosso, who won. I believe this was at Santa Anita.
Yep, it was.
And I was there on site, and I really liked that horse. I believe it had won the prep race there, right? The other 1.25 race.
Goodwood.
Yeah. So, and then I picked Higher Power, which had won the Pacific Classic, I believe. And I did not include McKinsey, who snuck in there and got second. But I was first, third, and it would have got me probably around 100,000.
Yep.
That wouldn't have won it, but it would have put me top 3 or 4, and that would have been, the biggest hit ever and a big win. And, I had a chance. I mean, I was right there. Fortunately, it wasn't a photo. I think I couldn't handle the photo. I think McKinsey won by a length or 2, or got second by a length or 2. So it wasn't like I was, I was waiting it out. But you know what? All it takes is one time. It's super fun to play. And, I think I'm one of those people that has a shot, because I will take a shot at the end. I'm not going to just walk away with a little money. I'm treating them as bullets, and, hey, I'm just going to see what I got and take a chance. So yeah, it's been fun.
Great stuff, Greg. Really appreciate you. For my daughter's benefit, I'm going to show off the shirt I'm wearing, my Barbenheimer t-shirt. Got to get that a little bit of airtime. She's sitting with me here at the pool. But really appreciate.
Awesome.
I'm sure I'll be dressed a little bit differently later when I'm on here live. Hopefully, coming from the roof from Saratoga. We'll see if that plan has worked out a little bit later today. We'll look for your name on the leaderboard, my friend, and always appreciate you having on. Next, you got to win the tour again or get to the final table, and we'll talk again very soon.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Cheers, bud.
Bye.
As I mentioned, we didn't quite make it to the roof, but I have another Perrin theme shirt on, the dinosaur collared shirt, which I had in mind for her as well. She's upstairs. I think she's playing Sudoku or watching shows on the iPad. We're gonna hang later as I do my work. I'm doing horse by horse write-ups of 3 of the stakes for attheraces.com for Saturday. And we're going to bring in a man to talk about a couple of those stakes, to talk about the rest of this card at Saratoga. He is your reigning Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge champion. Hey, Drew Coatney. Drew, what's up?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm just at the parents' house, having some help with the little guy that we have floating around. So
love it.
Yeah, doing good. Looking to play a little Del Mar later today. So we got Saratoga right now. Nothing could be wrong.
Thursday's become barbecue day around here. Look at this beast that I have getting ready.
What is that?
That is a dry brined brisket. Oh. It's about 10 points. I'm showing you the point. We've got some of the flat on it as well if we come up here. But that's tomorrow night's dinner, which I will start smoking when we get done with the show tonight. Have a bunch of people coming into town for Travers, and they're not going to feed themselves. So I'm hoping this weather holds off so it's not a extremely unpleasant have to go out in the middle of the night in the pouring rain to get the coals relit, because I don't have an oven. I don't have a working oven here, so I have to use the egg as an oven, which is it could be there might be a lot of murmuring and cursing under my breath if I have to do the 6 a.m. head out with that situation. But we'll see. Hopefully the weather's going to cooperate. It's one of these typically weird Saratoga forecasts that it's very hard to know what we're going to get. It looked very threatening a few minutes ago. It's not raining on this side of town. It was clearly raining for the last race at Saratoga. Yeah. You're obviously running around visiting. Did you get a chance to put in a ticket for today's Horseplayer Happy Hour?
Yeah, I did. But again, like last week, kicks off with a massive winner, big price I didn't have. And so now it's in chase mode right now. I'm sitting like first, third. I think I'm like $20 or $30, and I need to get up to about 40. So got some live horses going. So yeah, we'll be doing that. And I think in terms of one thing, let's talk offline about how to keep the fire management overnight going. I think I have some ideas for you on that front.
Good.
To help extend it.
The egg is kind of magic, Okay. When you get it set, it'll just hang out. So, and it won't get too low as long as I don't leave it too long. But I would love to hear, it's not a barbecue show, even despite our best efforts to make it one. So you're right. We'll talk about that offline. But I'm pretty confident I'll be able to. I was sort of thinking, 6 to 12, 12 to 6, 6 to 12, crutch it, be done with it. But anyway, if you have any other clever ideas, let me know. I was just going to go with three canisters and rock it from there. Normally I would cheat and just do the first 6 in there and then crutch it in the oven. But without an oven, you got to get creative. So we'll see how it goes. Travers weekend, always exciting. We've got Chef Dan coming in to cook Saturday night. I just did not want to deal with town on a night when it's the Travers and Fish are playing. I mean, it feels like there's a possibility for a time to, fold upon itself and it being very, very crazy in there. So we'll be drinking in the backyard. Thank you very much. My favorite place. Saratoga's awesome and we love going out in Saratoga, but funny enough, it's many of my best nights in Saratoga right around this kitchen table with various combinations of friends, and, a bottle like this and or one of my Maker's Marks, our sponsor back there, and you just a few friends drain that and pick on barbecue and rock and roll. The pork from last weekend could not have worked out any better. I'm still getting texts a week later from friends telling me how much they enjoyed it. So we must have done something right in that regard. All right.
Yeah, and you talk about stories though, Backyard. The first time you and I met, you had tapped a pony keg of, I cannot remember. I think it was a Northeastern Fantastic IPA. We sat
Did
out
I
back
get a
and
Maine
listened.
Brewing Company one, maybe?
Yeah, maybe that was it. And we sat in the back and listened to all of Wilco's. Was it Sky Blue Sky or was it Yankee Foxtrot Hotel? One of those
could have
two.
Been either or any. That's funny. You reminded me. I had a joke in my head that I didn't get out of my brain when I was talking to JK on the early week show. JK revealed that he was going to his first Fish concert this weekend. I guess he and Giovannina are going to go on Friday night. And the line that I came up with too late to use on air was that all he needs now to become a middle-aged white man is if I lend him one of my Wilco records. So we'll have to. I'll bring that one back. Pretend you didn't hear that and laugh just as hard when I bring that one back on the either tomorrow or on the. I'll probably save it till after he went. And we'll do that on the early week show. But if you're going to come up with these lines, you gotta prepare a little bit. It's not all off the cuff in this job.
Yeah, they got to dry brine like a good piece of meat. But I will say the follow up question to that is, I'm in my head. I want to know what his jam band dance is. Is he kind of one of those type of guys? Or
I think he's probably just a head nodder. I think he's a head nodder. I don't think he's going to be out there with the spinners. Let's put it that way. But
we need to text G and get a video of this so we can figure it out for ourselves.
That's actually a very good idea. Very good idea.
Let's talk racing. I think you were trying to segue that
Instagram gold. Instagram gold right there. No, let's look at the leaderboard for today first and foremost. Let's see how many we got. Hopefully the weather didn't keep too many away. I'm not sure if Craig is prepared for this, but we'll filibuster a little bit. He's also multitasking.
Here we go.
No, he's on it. He knows what he's doing. 154. That's been our range. Top 15 will advance. Ernest Hay Jr., loyal listener who I've had the chance of hanging out with many times. Up top at 50-70, Earl Pratt, Mark Willand, Rich Nilsson, who I've shouted out many times on these shows as one of the first people. He was writing a column. He's my age, so he must have been very, very young when he was writing this column on the internet in the mid 90s. One of the first people I ever asked a handicapping question to as I was getting into the game. John Rice, John Camardo. Good to see John becoming active a lot in these tournaments. He's fantastic. Always enjoy talking to John, a computer-oriented player, very sharp. Matthew Bayungo, Julie Leboyko, double-fisted, another name we see a lot. Mark Wilgard, not to be confused with Mark Winland. If your Mark W is running strong today, though. Bob Ray, Ron Kaufman, Nathan Kaczynski, Ron Faris. We've got a tie in third with Ron Faris and Joseph Paese, as well as a double-fisted Dave Nichols, who I had the pleasure of seeing the other night at the TRF barbecue. He does a lot of great work volunteering for the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. What a great event that was, the barbecue at the barn. Perrin got involved in the silent auction. She was very, very excited. She ended up, I'll show you them because why not? That's how loosey-goosey we are on the show. There was Nick Martinez, the equine artist, did this really cool diptych of Zenyatta.
Oh.
And Rachel called it Ladies First, two beautiful prints, and Perrin wants them in her room. So yeah, we encouraged that behavior, and we were the winning bid. My whiskey tasting, which will include Maker's Mark, of course, that ended up selling very nicely to a guy named Todd Angle. So that was great. So yeah, it was great to support the TRF, and of course, we don't just support the TRF on these airwaves. We also support the official charity partner of the Breeders' Cup. That's the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, who do the critical work of accrediting the aftercare organization. So we saw the leaderboard. Where are you on the leaderboard? You still feel like you're drawing low?
Yeah, $22 roughly. So just needed to string a couple winners together, a couple logicals. The ninth race, I like an import Jumbly coming overseas, making the first start.
Joseph O'Brien.
Yes, it's installed at 6-1 in the morning line. I don't know if we'll actually see that price. So that's the big question mark. I could go over and look at where civilized betting takes place to figure out what we're going to see, but we'll let it's a pick and pray.
Might be shorter internationally just because of the familiarity. But I do know one thing about Jumbly later on that I will pass along is I do know, they're here for the good ground. And I don't think the rain that we've had so far today would make it not good ground. I think it'd be okay, but they don't want, if it rains a lot, they're not going to be happy. There were definitely some anti-rain dances, shall we say, going on in the Joseph O'Brien camp. So hopefully for them, this rain pass is over. And yeah, makes a ton of sense. Does Jumbly a little bit later on? Which race is that, Drew?
That would be the 9th, the Ballston Spa.
Good old Ballston Spa.
Yeah,
that's a super interesting race.
Yeah, there's plenty of old characters that we all know about.
Sharpest book right now has technical analysis at evens, consumer spending at 4, Jumbly at 7. It's really interesting. The Sharpest book has Jumbly at 7, and that's the longest price, which makes me say a little bit. But I'm going to go with the theory that maybe we're just getting a little bit of value there. But she's 11-2 elsewhere. Got Fluffy Socks in the betting as well, and then longer the rest. So I did hear of some wise guy support for Speak of the Devil in that spot as well. Sean Borman texted me about that. Sean and I are going to do something for this Travers Day card. We haven't quite figured it out yet. We've got some comments. We'll talk about those. We got a question about the Travers. We could do that sooner rather than later. Rob checks in. He apparently wants to be invited over for the brisket. If you're in town, Rob, holler. And Richard asked about the trip to the King's Plate. It was fantastic. It's always a great time up there in Woodbine. They take very good care of us. It was a great day of racing. Really enjoyed myself, and we got to see some rather impressive performances along the way as well. Though I will say the King's Plate, to me, one of those races where, like so many, pace makes the race. Expected there to be much more going on up front. It did not develop that way, and we had a nice looking wire to wire winner. But I'd probably take the second or the third against the winner as we're going forward. But let's talk about the Travers for a minute. That's a good question, and one of the 3 races I had on the list to talk to you about, Drew. I was trying to make Disarm in there as maybe an interesting live long shot. I felt like the last race probably pace compromised, and I think there's a chance we're going to see a bit more of a pace hot up in here with National Treasure going forward, maybe Scotland going forward. Some other horses feel like they're a little bit likely to show speed. Disarm maybe sits mid-pack and does have that big race to run back to from the win. He's hard to gauge off these last 2 races, but at double-digit odds, I give him a shot. I'm not willing to just concede this race to Forte.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And this is starting to feel like if we, depending on how this whole context goes out, or how it all plays out, this is starting to feel like a little bit of the division where they beat up on each other. And now the cream of the crop has risen, and we're going to see this over and over again. And I think the only way that we break that narrative is if Mage wins, and that horse has the most to lose. As I think was mentioned on these airwaves, and I believe it as well. If Mage wins, 3-year-old of the year award goes to that horse. So you cross out any of the names of the races and just look and say, yeah, Mage peaked in a really big long race, came back too quick, and then ran respectfully at Monmouth, closing into neutral fractions, and is setting up for another big effort. I think there's some buzz around the workouts and things like that. I don't pay attention to it because I don't know how to use it in my handicapping, frankly. And I just think it's going to be interesting. It's more fun to root for the storyline in this one. And I'm with you as well on Disarm. That was my other wise guy horse. Same kind of story here. Blue fractions 2 back. Yeah, Forte beating the Jim Dandy Disarm. But what's going to happen with Disarm on a dry track if we get dry weather? I think that's the big question mark. So
there's a lot of X factors here. We did a whole show with Stephen Christ on the 2-day pick 6 that's already up. But one of the things that's tricky about I'm playing it, and I'm playing it enthusiastically. A pick 6, 15% takeout, 20-cent minimum, probably reduced computer play, all grade 1s. I mean, this is the kind of thing as horse players, we want to. We talk about voting with your dollar. This is a good opportunity for us to vote with our dollars and show tracks that we like this type of creativity. But it is a little tricky because we don't exactly know the weather, but you just have to account for that in your ticket construction. You just, you maybe have to allow for some horses that you'd only like on one surface or another. But really, to me, on either surface, I like Disarm. I really do think that that this horse might have a little bit more in him than has met the eye so far. And yeah, my thought from the last race is exactly that it just a little bit pace compromised. So and I did think that the Matt win, which was a good figure, was maybe a little bit better than it looked as a result of, as you noted, closing into the blue fractions. Richard asks about Scotland and what kind of a contender we think Scotland might be, pointing out that Bill Mott hasn't won the Travers, but certainly seems a race that will be on his resume before it's all said and done. He's an interesting one to me. Sort of depends on which figures you use. I'm hoping he's a pace factor. I hope they show speed like they did last time, and maybe he and National Treasure can make this race have the pace that a horse like Disarm, I think, probably needs to get it done. Did you give Scotland any count in here?
Yeah, and it sounds like Scotland was kind of a surprise. I haven't talked directly with the camp, but just reading through social media, it was like kind of a, oh my gosh, this horse is really on the up and up, and wow, this is amazing. But it is important to note that Il Miracolo Il Miracolo.
Il Malocchio is the horse that runs up north. That's the stink guy.
I was going to say, yeah.
Il Miracolo is the miracle.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I just saw the abbreviated, and I assumed it was the horse north of the border.
No.
But anyways, came back and ran in the Parks race and finished first, earning a pretty good 98 buyer speed figure as well. So does help frank that form a little bit. And I think the argument can be made, this is the wild card in this whole race. You've got a bunch of known commodities at this point, and with a little bit of a tactical advantage and, yeah, a little bit of light of figures. But have we ever said on these airwaves, Bill Mott with the target?
See, I'm not sure. I can't decide if this is Bill Mott with a target. I feel like it's almost Bill Mott and why not, which I don't like nearly as much. You know what I'm saying? I think if he really thought this, I mean, who knows though? Maybe maybe he'd circled the Travers and said, let's see how the horse runs in the Curlin. It's possible. It's worth actually reading into some interviews to see if Bill Mott is more of a why not about this, or if it is properly something he was thinking about for this runner all along. That might be the deciding factor, actually. All right, we're going to talk about the other East Coast win in your in action, but we're going to do so after the 7th race at Saratoga, which is about to go. We had the one runner in here open up as a heavy favorite, Buston Bay, but Sweet Mystery, as expected now, cutting into that. And it's really those two and all the others. Who did you use in the contest, Drew?
I used the 6, and I'm going to have to go back and figure out why I used the 6 in this spot, but I think I was turned away from the price that the 1 was going to be. I thought Buston Bay was going to take a lot of money. So I think the 6 was a little bit of a grindier style, going the mile in the 8th last time and almost got up, and gets a little bit of a cutback today. I think we'll have a smidge of a tactical advantage. And I just didn't like it that there was a ton of speed drawn with the 5, who only has one way to go. So I think it really caused some troubles for Buston Bay. It's an open field. So I wanted a little bit of a price and not take something super short in the contest.
It's hard to know, because Valoran, the 5 runner, didn't break last time. The speed that Valoran showed 2 back could make Buston Bay a little bit unhappy. I mean, obviously, if Buston Bay shakes loose, and I feel like there are some out there who feel like Buston Bay is shaking loose, thus the excited early betting on this one. But I almost feel like in either case, Sweet Mystery is just going to get the perfect trip. I mean, Sweet Mystery should be able to stalk within striking range of Buston Bay. And I feel like coming out of that mile in an 8th race, finishing that strongly, cutting back, I think Sweet Mystery is the one you want to be with. I am hoping Valoran can go with Buston Bay just enough to keep her honest, and let Trevor aboard Sweet Mystery pounce and attack and get the job done. I just got a text from Ernest Hay, funny enough, who's leading our contest here. Hopefully he's coming to Saratoga and wants to hang out. I would love that. Be great to see him. Be great to see anybody of our Horseplayer Happy Hour regulars who wants to hang out and hopefully raise a glass at Saratoga before it's all said and done. Let me know. Holler at me. You can find me easily on Twitter at LoomisBoldly, or of course through the contact page over on inthemoneypodcast.com that goes straight to my email. Always up for trying to arrange a little bit of a gathering of the loyal listeners. The 4-runner, the only other one who's taking any money in this spot, that's Mia Be a Star, who's certainly a tough horse. 5 wins. little bit more of a nibbler, I'd say, historically, with those 11 seconds and 10 thirds. Do you give her any count in this spot if they go really fast? Maybe if somehow the 6 and the 1 hook up, might be her best chance for success. For me, she's a little bit more for under, but can you make a case on the win end?
Yeah, sometimes when you submit your a test or an exam or publish a piece of paper and then you realize, oh, I wish I edited it. Mia Be a Star, when you look at the mile performances this one has ran, especially going back to April at Aqueduct, I think she really has a huge shot in this spot here. So anyone who's playing a win bet might have a little chance to make some money at 6-1.
If you were playing this as a live contest, you might switch to the 4. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think I would use the 4 into a couple logicals in the next race with some doubles. I bet you're going to get a pretty monstrous price.
Excellent. Rob sharing some stats about optional allowance claimers. Says the favorites are only winning at 22% at this level. That's surprising. That's awfully low. Whereas he says at the but in general at the mile, favorites performing, I'd say about 39% at Saratoga. I'm guessing this meet. That's probably about what the average of what favorites are doing. These mile races out of the chute can be a little bit tricky. I do think sometimes they favor horses on the outside. Another reason I don't mind going with the 6 runner here. And with that, you see that odd configuration right there, in fact, with the sort of fake rail to get them started, which I do think helps the runners on the inside. They're off. Let's get it to Frank Miramati.
And Valorant are the first 2 out of the gate, and Buston Bay will make her own pace. Mia Be a Star comes away in 3rd, followed by Sweet Mystery, who's 4th. Now 3rd, moving up on the outside as Valorant takes the lead away from Buston Bay. At the back of the field is BB's Busted. They straighten up for the run down the backstretch, and it's Valorant leading by about a length. Sweet Mystery and Buston Bay side by side, 2nd and 3rd. Mia Be a Star is 4th. The opening quarter went in 24 and 4/5 seconds. BB's Busted has 5 lengths to make up on Valorant, who heads toward the half-mile pole with a 2-length advantage. Sweet Mystery in the clear, Buston Bay orange colors at the rail. They are followed by Mia Be a Star. BB's Busted inches up on the outside. Valorant went the half in 49 and 1/5 seconds. Sweet Mystery moves clearly into 2nd now. Buston Bay shuffling back. We'll have to do a lot better. Is now 5th along the inside as Sweet Mystery puts her gray neck in front and opens up a length and a half just like that. Sweet Mystery, the one to catch. Buston Bay coming back for more. Valorant has surrendered. BB's Busted on the outside. And Mia Be a Star, they're heading toward the 8th pole. And Sweet Mystery is in charge by 2.5 lengths. Buston Bay 2nd, followed by BB's Busted 3rd. They head to the 16th pole. And Sweet Mystery still comfortably in front. Buston Bay trying one last time, but Sweet Mystery is too good. Sweet Mystery and Trevor McCarthy defeating Buston Bay. Mia Be a Star was 3rd, just in front of BB's Busted.
We need to watch some tape on that, but that was a very strange trip, wasn't it, for Buston Bay, who was in the midst and looked fine, and then sort of lost position for what I couldn't discern a reason, and then did try and run all the way to the line, but the race was over at that point. Sweet Mystery, perfect trip winner. Terrific ride, really. I mean, the way Sweet Mystery was quarter horse to keep up early, I thought might tell on her late, but the tremendous advantage she got getting the jump obviated any concern about the extra energy used early. Any thought on what happened there to the favorite?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I only got because I watched via the Horseplayer Happy Hour through the app we use here. I think I had about 7 frames around the far turn worth of images, and that was it. And then saw my horse on the lead, and then the number 1 coming. So it was very strange. I think that's going to be one to come back and look at. My thought is maybe the 6 made a big early move to get into contention and then was just kind of getting tired late at the mile distance. But I have to go back and watch it. I didn't get to see the flow, which is so important when you're actually
of course. Yeah, we'll see again. They just did the stretch replay, but the whatever issue had happened for Buston Bay had already happened at that point. From there, it just looks very straightforward with Sweet Mystery getting the jump and thus the victory under Trevor McCarthy. 3-2. I think a fairly generous 3-2 in the end to the 3-5 of Buston Bay in what looked like a match race on paper and played out like one more or less on the track, though. Little assist to Valorant for not giving Buston Bay that easy lead early. Though it feels like even if Valorant hadn't done that, Trevor was prepared to put Sweet Mystery into the race a little bit earlier. Anyway, enough about that. We'll take a look back and amend our trip notes as we go forward. But we've got a couple other races we want to talk about before we get to our special guest this weekend. Let's head on to some win and you're in action on this Saturday from Saratoga. We already did a quick look at the Travers. Let's now talk about which one should we look at first, do you think, Drew?
Let's go backwards. Sword Dancer. Let's go in reverse order.
Sword Dancer. So winning your in action for the Longines Turf on Saturday, a race where I think the Invaders hold a strong hand. But honestly, at the prices, I think the interesting horse is Bolshoi Ballet. This is a horse that was used as a pacemaker last time. So that is not a relevant form line as far as I'm concerned in the King George, one of the top races in all of Europe. But you can kind of tell from the way that he was ridden and the fact that he was 99-1 in that spot, it was not meant to be his day. Really, the run in the Wolferton, not bad at all, I didn't think. And, I think this is a horse that has really improved since the last times we saw him on these shores. If you look at the body of his work, and one who is always meant to have talent. This was your even. It's hilarious to think now this horse was even money in the damn Derby, right? Want to talk about, in contention for being one of the most famous races, most biggest races in all of Europe. Then came here, won the Belmont Derby. It all sort of went wrong from there. But, I think that Wolferton is a sign that this horse is heading back into form. And then again, just put a line through the last race, might as well have been a workout. Bolshoi Ballet at 5-1, an appealing alternative to Stone Age. Stone Age fits like an absolute glove off, granted it was with a perfect trip, but still, you're second in the Breeders' Cup Turf. You're probably supposed to win, or at least go close in this edition of the Sword Dancer. I feel like Channel Maker, last time was the time. Soldier Rising, has numbers to make him competitive, but, going to be probably pace compromised once again. For me, it's all about the Euros in here, Bolshoi Ballet and Stone Age. But how do you see it?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on it. I was focusing on Stone Age. I think it is critical to note, and this is why it helps to tune in to know that the King George was a pacemaker setup in that race. I like the back form I'm seeing with Stone Age when you see Bay Bridge and Luxembourg and a lot of those bigger names overseas and running, within a couple lengths of some of the top horses over there. So maybe the good ground helps. Yeah, the Breeders' Cup Turf lost to Rebels Romance, but I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't the perfect day, and there's another step forward to be had because every time this horse comes overseas, it seems like he continues to run a little better. So 4-year-old in Chad Brown's hands. I think it is pretty funny. I would love to know the stats of when O'Brien passes to Chad. It's kind of like when Michael Jordan passes to Kobe. Kind of think of like, okay, what's this all mean? So, but yeah, it's nothing too original. But I think it's going to be a fun one. Make sure to watch and take trips, especially on these turf races when we get to the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge and the Breeders' Cup races. This is going to have a lot of implications.
All that tells me is that Peter Brandt, the owner, and Coolmore, who also own in partnership with him, they're going to leave Stone Age here, and they think he'll thrive and have a big second half of the year campaign. It would be interesting to see. I can't recall off the top of my head another one that went from Aiden straight to Chad, but it's certainly no negative. Only negative on Stone Age to me is the price. Let's go back one race, Drew, and then we'll let you get back to your important family business out there. But we do want to talk about the Ballerina Grade 1 winning your in action for the Filly and Mare Sprint, a race on paper that very much looks like a match race between Echo Zulu and Goodnight Olive. Is it as simple as that, and which one do you prefer?
Yeah, I think Echo Zulu is just a different beast. I didn't believe it last out, and she made me a believer fully. I think Steve Asmussen has figured this horse out, and I'm excited to see this one roll on the front end. And maybe just like even could press too wide. And I think it comes down to trip because Goodnight Olive doesn't have that option to sit off the hip of a horse. Goodnight Olive is either going to have to tuck in and take dirt and work out a trip or go wide and try and run farther than Echo Zulu does. So I just think this sets up beautifully for Echo Zulu. And 7-5, I think we're going to be looking at this one like Flightline at 1-9.
Interesting. I mean, 1-9 would be a little short, but I do think Echo Zulu does end up odds on, and just from the look of how forwardly she seems to be training, and I mean, I think you've made the case brilliantly. She just seems like a different animal as a 4-year-old one. So many of us were looking forward to the cutback for after that massive Kentucky Oaks performance in defeat, and she has not disappointed. Obviously, lost to Goodnight Olive in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, but I think the worm has turned here as we get to the latter part of Echo Zulu's 4-year-old year. I'll probably, in terms of picks, go 80-20 Echo Zulu, though I certainly don't mind the idea of backing up a little bit with Goodnight Olive. The way you're talking, you're going 100% through Echo Zulu. Is that about right?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see 1-9. I think we will see 6-5, 7-5. I think you're correct. My point is, I think if Echo Zulu does what I think she'll be able to do on Saturday, we'll be looking on the week on Saturday, seeing 1-9, going, wow, 6-5 was a gift. So
I see what you're saying.
I'm full
winning
Echo
like a 1-9 at 6-5. That sounds more like it, though. I wouldn't be surprised if she's odds on in the end. I think there's a lot of positive buzz around her. I didn't prep you for this, but Richard in the comments wants to ask us what we think about the Gunite versus Elite Power rematch. Do you have a quick thought on that?
Is that the Jerkins?
No, these are older horses. So that is let me tell you the name of the race in 2 seconds. The Forgo, exactly. And for me, I rate them pretty equally. And so at the presumptive prices with Elite Power odds on and Gunite odds against, I might go with Gunite again. If you remember, there was so much wise guy support for Gunite and really had a pretty easy trip, and Gunite ran the horse down. But I still think that it's good. Obviously, not telling you anything you don't know. It's a match race, but at the prices, I'd probably give a slight edge to Gunite. This is one where I'd probably just use them equally in the pick six.
Yeah, I agree. And this is an interesting one, right? Because this is not the final destination of the year. I'm imagining all the Gunite and Elite Power are pointed towards the Breeders' Cup Sprint again.
Of course.
So this is a hard one to handicap and put your money behind, because if I'm Bill Mott, hey, running second and getting good fitness and getting ready, being put on the shelf until November, it's not crazy. It's not a failure for him. So I just get a little leery on that whole what's the intent of the actual race itself. So with that in mind, Gunite 6-5 sounds like a solid investment, especially drawn inside.
Drew, we're going to let you go. Appreciate all your help here today as we have our next guest in. So we will talk to you on the late week show. We'll do some Woodbine. What do we say, 10 a.m. tomorrow? Does that work for you?
I think so. Yeah. Let's do it.
In the middle of the show?
What's that?
Production meeting in the middle of the show?
Absolutely. Another production meeting in the middle of the show. Make sure to pop some champagne for your next guest and tell her hello.
Only if it's the brand that she likes. And I still feel like we haven't determined if there's any sponsorship conflict here. Hopefully someone will tell us. Drew, we'll talk later.
Cheers.
All right. Drew is out. Michelle Yu is in. How are things, Michelle? What's going on down there in Del Mar? You surviving the meet okay?
It's so nice that Drew knows exactly what I like to drink. He's paying attention.
He watches. He's not just the business manager here. He's not just the BCBC champion. He's also he's one of us. He's part of the community. He's a Horseplayers Happy Hour fan.
Pete, you are so low. I can barely hear you.
Really?
And you and Drew were like that too. I had to really listen. But now that I thought like maybe it would pump up like once I was on.
I'm turning. I don't. Producer Craig, if you have any ideas on why I'd be coming low, and if you can double check that I'm not going low, Craig, on the wide stream. Nobody said anything in the comments, so I think it's possible. It's possible it's just you, my friend. But it will. Hopefully, we can make it work and get this figured out. We've only got 10 minutes, so we could probably just fake it and mime if worse comes to worse. It's happened before on these airwaves. But give us a little update on what's been going on out at Del Mar.
Well, actually, I'm home right now. As you can see from my blurred background, I had to come up because my son started school today. But I'm heading back down as soon as we're done with this little shindig. I'm heading back down to Del Mar. So obviously we had the hurricane come in last weekend, but by the time it got to us at Del Mar, it was more of a tropical storm. We took a couple inches of rain on the backside, but got it cleaned up pretty quickly. And after 48 hours of the track being sealed and then open, training did resume yesterday, and everything seems to be hunky-dory. I'll be interested to see how the track plays today. When I was on it yesterday, it's really deep. It's very heavy. So I wonder if that's going to just favor some front runners because everyone's going to be laboring. And I don't know how you're going to make up a lot of ground on it. But we'll see. We'll
Interesting.
see how it plays today.
And sometimes that can be bad for the rail, as I recall out there. But something we're not going to know really until they pop. But yeah, that and racing out there starting in what 10 minutes or so. So yeah, keep an eye if you're playing Del Mar to see what kind of track trends emerge after getting that deluge. But everything on the backside for you guys was okay. Nothing major to report. You'd expect, other than maybe a little bit of track, figuring out what's going on with the extra weather they took. All systems are go.
Yeah, no, I mean, Del Mar was great. They were out in front of it, knowing the storm was coming in and not knowing the actual severity. They did give people that were in the temporary stalls a couple of options. They were willing to help you relocate if you wanted to do that to either San Luis Rey or Los Alamitos, or you could weather the storm literally. And some of the people that only had one or two out in temporary stalls were able to move them indoors. Our barn, the Ruiz barn, D'Amato's barn, and Michael McCarthy's barn, we're all like in the same quad, and we all have about 20 outdoor stalls each, and we all opted to stay put, and everyone was good. It was no problem.
That's excellent. And how did you deal with the unexpected off day on Sunday? What did you do at this unexpected
sad
time?
for us because it was mine and Millie's last day doing the simulcast because we've been doing it for 3 weeks. So it was sad that we didn't get to kind of finish on the note that we wanted to. But we knew it going in, so we were able to say like our goodbyes and everything. And it was really weird to have off like a Sunday that we should have been racing. Not because like I normally work the races at Del Mar, because I don't, but like just the fact that we would go do something. I'm like, why is it so busy? Oh yeah, it's Sunday. Like just, I forgot.
That's very funny. Well, let's look ahead to this weekend. We've got Breeders' Cup win and you're in action in the form of the Pat O'Brien. And like so many of these Del Mar races, stakes and otherwise, this meet, we're looking at a pretty nice full field here with 11 expected to go postward. Any early thoughts on this one? Who might punch their ticket to the Breeders' Cup out of the Pat O'Brien?
Well, the horse was certainly the best running lines is Brickyard Ride, the overachieving Calbred. He is a multiple graded stakes winner. If I'm going to give you some knocks against him, it is that he has never won a race at Del Mar. He has won 13 races and never won at this particular track. So whatever
Crazy.
it is, and I feel like that's probably because when they bring him here, he has to step outside of his realm and they run him in, grade 1 company, or, they do stuff like that for him. So when you look at that and you think, oh gosh, that's probably why. It's not necessarily that he doesn't love it as much as he loves Santa Anita, but at Santa Anita, he's been given those ample opportunities to be able to run against Calbred Stakes Company, and of course on multiple surfaces. So he has that going for him there. The only opportunities for him at Del Mar have been grade 1 and grade 2s pretty much. So his last try at the Pat O'Brien was his lifetime worst effort pretty much. And he was sidelined after that for several months. So I can kind of give him a little bit of leeway. He is coming out of a route race where he ran well, and we know that routing is not his actual forte. So the turn back should be good, but 7 furlongs is a challenging distance. And I don't know if he is quite up to the task at age 6 to win a graded stake, against open company, obviously, going 7, just because the distance is really challenging. He has done it previously, but it was a couple yards back, or years back, excuse me. So for me, even though he has kind of like the wherewithal to be, the top contender in here, I kind of want to go for a little bit of a fresher face, so to think. So I think I'm going to look at some of these horses that we haven't gotten to see either running in graded stakes or, sprinting or as much out here. I think Hoist the Gold probably has a good chance to hit the board. He seems to hit the board in a lot of races. He didn't run great in the Bing Crosby, but I think 6 is maybe not his ideal. And he was kind of buried down. Well, he wasn't kind of buried. He was buried down at the rail.
On a bad rail, moved into a hot
and the
pace.
rail was not playing good at that time. I can 100%. Give him a total pass because he's generally a horse that he might not have like the top tier A game, but he brings his A game everywhere, right? Yeah. So I think for me, he's a play across the board or using your exotics horse. I think that Sir Atticus is kind of the up and comer that I want to look at. He has had some eventful outs. If you didn't watch his debut race, he broke from the gate and he went to bucking. He like put his head down and was like leaping all over. And then in his next start, he didn't break great. So he's definitely one of those bloomers that John Sheriff's kind of coddles along. And eventually when all the things start to click and John doesn't rush him into that, they end up being good. This would obviously be a really sentimental victory for Jerry Moss.
Yes, Jerry Moss, we tragically, well, the way of the world, I suppose, but we lost this summer. What a story that would be to see those iconic silks in the winner's circle for this.
Especially because he bred him. The estate now owns him. He owned the sire. Like, it's just, I mean, it's family. Like, it would be a perfect bow on the Moss story.
That's what I want to see. I mean, you've mentioned to me who are the two interesting horses, and Sir Atticus and Hoist the Gold. But what do you think? So my biggest question about Sir Atticus is, what do you think about the 7 furlongs? I mean, unproven, but this shapes like a horse for whom the 7 furlongs should suit. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way he just dueled away from him last time and giving him that elongated sprint, right? And in his maiden breaker going just 6, he came from just off of it after not breaking great, and he beat decent enough Baffert horses, like Baffert horses that have been working like Baffert horses do that you thought were going to run good. And what an improvement considering what he did in his first start. I think he's still a horse putting together. I don't think 7 furlongs is going to see the bottom of him. I think from a pedigree standpoint, he should be able to go certainly further, but he does need to step up and he does need to mentally mature yet again to get it done here. But I don't mind the fresh face at this juncture.
100%, and in the right hands to improve for a test like this. I think that you and I are exactly together in questioning those at the top of the market. You sort of made the case against Brickyard Ride. I'll make the case against Anarchist, and I think it's very similar to what you said. Exactly. I mean, it's just you talked about the distance, and this is a horse I just don't really get. For the 7 furlongs is going to bring this horse forward. I'm not saying the horse can't win, but as the favorite, this is a major question mark for a horse that's already, I don't mean to be a jerk here, but been a bit of a nibbler, right? I mean, when the wins are when everything was in the favor. I don't think we're going to see everything in the favor here. I mean, might get a very good trip from the outside, but if the 7-2 morning line guest is right, I think that's a little short as far as Anarchist goes. It makes me want to reach for one at a bit of a number. And then I think we have questions about Spirit of McKenna too, who's going to catch a lot of money just in terms of, what kind of form is this horse really in? What kind of trip is this horse going to get? The claims to fame are all, to my mind, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, very, very easy trips. This shapes to be more of a scramble. I think you're right to want to be looking for ones at a little bit bigger of a pricing here. What do you think of those two?
I don't know what price we're going to get on Viva Con Algeria, but he's a horse I kind of want to play also. He debuted last year stateside to no avail. He was a speed and fade type. I loved him last time at Gulfstream, and he got beat by Long Range Toddy, who has a lot of back class, right? He was a Triple Crown horse. He's a stakes winner. Like, that was a decent enough race. I think it set him up to come over here. He went really fast at Gulfstream. He's not going to be, I don't know if he's going to be as quick as Brickyard Ride or if that's going to be a situation, but Barrios obviously riding absolutely lights out. Amador Sanchez is sending over good horses. You're getting good prices. This horse has worked with affinity over the track. He's going to need to step up, but this is the type of horse that can step up and win this race, I feel like.
That's very interesting. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to make a case. I had questions about the specifics of the trip, but there's no equity in this life making cases against 20-1 shots. And if you're right about that one, Michelle, it could be a case of Julio get the stretch. You'll be buying a whole lot of that champagne with the yellow label.
Certainly will be.
We're running out of time here. Pacific Classic next weekend. Any early thoughts on that one? Of course, we can pull you back in to talk about it later, but has there been a lot of positive buzz? Does it sound like we might get some 3-year-old participation in there in the form of Go Rocket Ride? That was a rumor that was floating around for a while.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of 3-year-olds, I feel like, that are pointing towards it, right? So looking at it, it's going to be fun. I feel like this is going to be, we don't have a standout handicap horse. If you say Defunded, you can make a case for Defunded being our standout handicap horse, right? But I feel like he's kind of just that. he's a Santa Anita specialist. So I love to see other horses. So we're going to have Arabian Night, Stiletto Boy, Katona, Slow Down Andy, who I feel like he's probably a better miler, but he makes it interesting because he runs in a lot of races. You can kind of use him almost as a gauge for some other horses. Go Rocket Ride. Skinner is supposedly going to be going to, so that's another good 3-year-old. I heard that Sadler's going to run Tripoli. He's not 3, obviously, and he's kind of past his prime, in my opinion, but he did win this race before. So you get a past winner in there.
Always love that.
It's shaping up to be a competitive race, if maybe not as jaw-dropping from a name standpoint as say the Travers is. You're at least going to be looking at it like, ooh, maybe I can go this angle, maybe I can go this angle, because it's a lot of horses that are maybe either 3-year-olds facing older, or they're an older horse that's not exactly the ding, ding, ding guy, right? Like, look, you have Stiletto Boy and Senior Buscador, who have been, kind of toiling around that handicap level, but they're not upper echelon, but they've each won a big race this year. It's a fun race. It's going to be competitive.
Speaking of the Travers, we missed terribly. You've been here the last few years for this, and we missed terribly not having you. You famously did a Horseplayer Happy Hour appearance in the last couple of years from the gutter on Caroline Street, which is still a high point. I don't know if that's
pod almost got run over by a car.
It was either that or me tripping over a bunch of glassware and gravely injuring myself during one of the early ones during the pandemic that are sort of the co-candidates for a high point in the history of Horseplayer Happy Hour. But we miss terribly having you here. Have you and zero worries if you haven't. But if you had a chance to take a quick look at that race this year, it's only 7 horses, but it's a loaded fun affair.
But it's the right 7.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Forte didn't get to run the Derby. He didn't get to run the Preakness, and he was coming off an huge layoff in the Belmont, and he almost won that damn race. And you got the Derby winner, the Preakness winner, the Belmont winner. You got Forte to go up against all of them. I mean, when they put together the Travers, I can only imagine they were like, okay, if we don't have a Triple Crown, this is what we want, right?
Exactly.
And you're getting that. Like, how much better Naira could not have asked for a better field to be assembled as far as an interest standpoint goes, because you have every single 3-year-old almost, with the exception of Go Rocket Ride in there.
Do you have a lean from this far out, or we'll reserve your opinion if you want?
I feel like I almost just want Forte to win because he's the cool story, right? Like he's battled so much stuff now. He was a really great 2-year-old. It's not always that we see the great 2-year-olds turn the page to be 3. What I think that we saw him accomplish in the Belmont, going that far as a Son of Violence, off of that layoff from the Florida Derby and everything that happened in between, like that was to me a really nice feat of just an excellent horse. And now that we've actually gotten to a target at the right proper number of steps that they had wanted to take, let's see what he can do. But he would be the cool story because it kind of shows like, look, I was the best 2-year-old. I've overcome something and I'm the best 3-year-old also. If it's not going to be him, I would love to see Mage win because I've been a Mage fan. Obviously, I cashed on him in Derby. He was one of my Derby picks, and he obviously ran really well in the Haskell, knowing he wasn't 100%. And this is his thing. To me, everyone is coming into this race, and they're like, we're 100%. Right? When Forte went in the Belmont, he was 100%. When Mage went into the Haskell, he was 100%. Right? Like all these people, every single person. Jenna's like, yeah, Arcangelo, he's doing superior. Like everybody loves their horse right now. There's going to be no excuse. Like Bafford's not like, yeah, National Treasure's not ready. Right? Like every horse is ready. Let's see. Let's throw down right now.
That's the perfect note to leave it on. Michelle, you're the best. Wonderful having you. Well, thank you. Well, thank producer Craig. Did a great job on the show. Greg Kingma popping in, last year's winner of the Horseplayer Happy Hour Tour, who punched his BC seat last week as a result of qualifying from this game. And of course, Drew Coatney, our reigning champ. Always great to have him on. For our friends at Breeders' Cup and in the Money Media, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your photos.